Hello and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's regular press briefing of the European Medicines Agency, EMA. My name is Marie-Agnes Heine, and I'm the head of the communication department. As you know, we are holding these regular press briefings since a couple of weeks, and it's really about updating you on recent developments in the area of COVID-19, vaccines, and treatments. So let's get started with today's briefing. I'm delighted to have three colleagues with me today. Dr. Marco Cavaleri, the head of Biological Health Threats and Vaccine Strategy. Dr. Fergus Sweeney, the head of Clinical Studies and Manufacturing Task Force. And Dr. Georgi Genov, the head of Pharmacovigilance. As usual, your microphone is disabled for the duration of this briefing. And initially, Dr. Cavaleri will provide you with an update on recent developments, and then we will have about half an hour to answer your questions. Today's briefing is being broadcast by YouTube and Europe by satellite, and the footage can be used free of charge, and you will find the respective links in the invite you received. I'm now handing over to EMA's Head of Biological Health Threats and Vaccine Strategy, Dr. Cavaleri, please.
Thank you for taking the time to attend this briefing today. I will like to share a few updates on EMA activities that occurred in the last couple of weeks. First of all, as you know, virus variants and their impact on effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine continues to be an important topic, not only for us, but also for regulators across the world. Last week, indeed, we had a constructive exchange with other regulatory authorities all over the world on how to deal with the variants that are emerging and for the development of new vaccines in the future. We are aware of the concerns that are caused by the rapid spread of the Delta variant and other variants. Right now, it seems that for the 4 vaccines that are approved in the European Union, they seem all to be protecting against all the strains that are circulated in Europe, including the Delta variant. The first data from real-world evidence are showing that 2 doses of vaccines are protective against the Delta variant, and also data are showing that antibodies from the approved vaccines are able to neutralize the Delta variant too. So these data are reassuring. Expediting vaccination and maintaining public health measures remain very important tools to fight the pandemic. In particular, making sure that vulnerable and elderly people complete their vaccination course as soon as possible is paramount to limit the consequences of the further spread of the Delta variant later in the year. EMA has requested all vaccine developers to investigate if their vaccine will provide protection against emerging variants, and all studies will be assessed by the EMA in order to conclude on the level of protection that will be offered by the currently approved vaccines. We are aware that some member states are applying a strategy of giving a second dose of a different COVID-19 vaccine to that used for the first dose. For example, an EU citizen might receive as a first dose Vaxzevria, so the AstraZeneca vaccine, followed by a second dose of Comirnaty, which is the messenger RNA vaccine from Pfizer and BioNTech. Such an heterologous vaccination strategy, which is also called the mix and match, in which different vaccine is given for the second dose in a recommended 2-dose schedule, has historically been applied for some other vaccines, and has a solid scientific rationale. Currently, EMA is not in a position to make any definitive recommendation on use of different COVID-19 vaccines for the 2 doses. However, we are aware of the preliminary results from studies conducted in Spain and Germany that would indicate...
Sorry, Marco. I think we have to restart the broadcast because journalists haven't been hearing. So we need to see... whether we can solve that issue. But we need to get confirmation that now people can hear. If I can get that confirmation, and then we can restart. We apologize for that. It's not yet there, obviously. Let me know. NOS has the sound, but the journalists cannot hear. Ale, can you confirm? They don't hear. Okay, so we are going to try again. Bear with us. We are sorry for that.
Thanks for waiting. We've let the host know.
Yes, we try again. Do you hear me? So you hear me, but... Okay, but we need the confirmation that journalists can hear us as well, yeah. Can we perhaps include the YouTube feed in the chat so that people can link via YouTube? Okay, so if I now see that they can listen via YouTube, so probably we can restart. Is that okay from the technical colleagues? Okay, so let people know via the chat that they should listen via YouTube. That's working well and they can hear us. So at least we can proceed. Yeah, if you give me the okay, we start again. From scratch, yeah. Can we restart?
Yeah, for me, yes. It definitely works.
And from the other colleagues?
We're running away.
Okay, so I get the okay, so let's get started. So again, only for you to know who we have here today on the panel of today's press briefing. I'm delighted to have with me Dr. Marco Cavaleri, the head of Biological Health Threats and Vaccine Strategy, Dr. Fergus Sweeney, the head of Clinical Studies and Manufacturing Task Force, and Dr. Georgi Genov, the head of Pharmacovigilance. And Dr. Cavaleri will start to give you an update on recent developments in the area of COVID-19 vaccines and treatments. Dr. Cavaleri, please.
Thank you very much for taking the time today. I will give you very briefly an update of what have been the activities of the EMA in the last couple of weeks. I will start by mentioning various variants and their impact on the effectiveness of the COVID-19 vaccine, which continues to be an important topic, not only for us, but also for regulators all over the world. Indeed, last week, we had a constructive exchange of views with other regulatory authorities across the globe on how to deal with these variants that are emerging and also how to deal with the development of future vaccines for COVID-19. We are aware of the concerns caused by the rapid spread of the Delta variant and other variants as well. Right now, it seems that the 4 vaccines that are approved in the European Union are protective against all strains that are circulating in Europe, including the Delta variant. Emerging data from real-world evidence are showing that 2 doses of vaccines are protective against the Delta variant, and also data from the laboratory are showing that the antibodies from the approved vaccines are able to neutralize the Delta variant too. So these are reassuring news. Expediting vaccination and maintaining public health measures remain very important tools in the fight against this pandemic. In particular, making sure that vulnerable and elderly people complete their vaccination course as soon as possible is paramount to limit the consequences of the further spread of the Delta variant later in the year. EMA has requested all vaccine developers to investigate if their vaccines are able to provide protection against the emerging variant, and all studies will be submitted to the EMA for review in order to conclude on the level of protection that the current vaccine may offer against the new emerging variants. We are aware that some EU member states are applying a strategy of giving a second dose of a different COVID-19 vaccine to that used for the first dose. As an example, EU citizens may receive a first dose of the AstraZeneca vaccine called Vaxzevria, and then followed by a second dose of a messenger RNA such as the Pfizer-BioNTech one. Such an heterologous vaccination strategy, which is also termed as a mix and match, in which different vaccine is given for the second dose in a recommended two-dose schedule, has historically been proven to be successful and has been used for other vaccines and has a solid scientific rationale. Currently, the EMA is not in a position to make any definitive recommendation on use of different COVID-19 vaccines for the two doses. However, we have seen preliminary data from studies from Spain and Germany that they would show that this strategy achieves satisfactory immune response and no safety concerns. You might already have seen that the study called CONCOV from the UK has just released new data that would show good immune response after heterologous administration with a 4 weeks interval, and more data are awaited shortly, investigating also a 12 weeks interval. The EMA will continue, therefore, to review the data as they become available. We also keep getting questions why some member states seem to be deviating from EMA recommendation in the development and implementation of their vaccination strategies. When member states decide about the use of a vaccine in their vaccination campaign, they can decide to restrict or direct the use of any specific vaccine to certain population or settings, considering factors such as the local condition, the spread of the virus, including the variants that are circulating, importantly, the availability of vaccines, and the capacity of the health system. The EMA will make recommendations based on all the available evidence on the benefits and risks of a specific vaccine. However, decision on how vaccination should be given remains, therefore, the prerogative of the expert bodies guiding the vaccination campaigns in each member state. Looking at the longer term, we are also in touch with vaccine developers to discuss the potential use of a booster dose in order to determine what could be the best timing for such booster dosing and what would be the best strategy in this respect. It is important to stress that at this stage, it is not yet clear whether booster doses will be necessary for the vaccines to maintain their protection. We want to be, however, in a position to take timely regulatory decisions if the evidence from vaccination campaigns were to indicate that boosters are needed. The EMA will therefore proactively review data on the safety and immune response in people who have received a subsequent 4th dose or a second dose in the case of the Janssen COVID-19 vaccine, a few months after they completed their initial vaccination, and this data should be collected over the summer period and available for review soon thereafter. Moving to the safety of vaccines, our safety committee, the PRAC, is continuing its assessment of reports of myocarditis and pericarditis in a small number of young people following vaccination with COVID-19 vaccines. As you are aware, we have been monitoring this issue closely since April, but there is not enough data to establish a causal relationship at this point. However, it looks like the number of cases is very low, and they are mostly mild and resolved within a few days. Also, few patients were hospitalized, but have since recovered. The PRAC is encouraging all healthcare professionals to report any case of myocarditis or pericarditis and any other adverse event that may occur after vaccination, and any due data that become available will feed into PRAC's ongoing evaluation. We expect that the committee will reach a conclusion by the end of next week. Before I conclude, I would like to highlight the European Commission announcement on Tuesday on its therapeutic strategy. All 5 treatments selected by the Commission are currently under rolling review, which will continue over the summer, and we are looking forward to approve some of them later on in the year. Besides monoclonal antibodies that are able to neutralize the virus, other antiviral medicines that can be given orally are under investigation and development. It is important to check that all antivirals are effective against the variants that are currently circulating in the European Union, and the EMA discusses all these aspects with each developer before approval will take place. Other promising medicines are targeting severe COVID-19 and include mainly immunomodulatory therapeutics. EMA will continue engaging in active dialogue with developers of promising therapeutics to make sure that they can generate the clinical evidence that would allow a rapid approval. So I will stop here to allow as much time as possible for questions.
Many thanks, Dr. Cavaleri. And as we still are having, obviously, problems with our WebEx, I would like to ask journalists to ask their questions via the chat box in YouTube so that we can respond to those. I don't know whether we already have any questions from the floor. So far, okay, the chat obviously from WebEx can also be used, so you don't need to switch to the YouTube channel. But so far, I don't see any questions. So let's see, because there is a little bit of delay. Bear with us. I'm really sorry for these technical problems that we're having today. Okay, but I don't get any questions, so it's a little bit unfortunate that we do not see anything. I can't imagine that no one of you has any questions. I think there is one question that we could answer, and that's one for Dr. Cavaleri. For people who have been in contact with an infected person, should the vaccinated person stay in isolation? Well, that's actually not really a question for us, but I don't know whether you can say anything for that, Marco.
Yeah, I think there are recommendations from the member state that indicate what to do in these kind of circumstances. I think all we can say that is important to maintain a cautious approach even if you are being vaccinated, particularly if your vaccination cycle has not been completed, that you have not received yet 2 doses. We are still in a phase with variants emerging, so a cautious approach with respect to other possible way of avoiding the spread of the virus will be very important as well.
Many thanks. Then we also have a question from Reuters, from Ludwig Burger. I don't know whether we can hear you. Ludwig? Ludwig, can you ask your question? Okay, we can try perhaps later again. So then we have a question.
Just on the ongoing press conference.
Ah, there you are, Ludwig.
There are plenty of questions in the chat, and the moderator doesn't seem to realize that. Just so you make sure.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I see one question here. When will you approve Moderna for teens?
I just wanted to let you know
Cavaleri.
I have to listen again to the call. Thanks so much for looking into it. Okay, bye.
We are now hearing lots of other noises, but there was this question on Moderna for adolescents. Dr. Cavaleri.
So this is still planned to occur by the end of July, and I think the timetable is still remaining like this.
Okay, and then the next question comes from Deutsches Ärzteblatt, from Nadine Eckert. She asks, will you go on with the evaluation of CureVac? Dr. Cavaleri?
Yes, we had quite constructive engagement with the company CureVac, and we will proceed into evaluating all the clinical data once they will be fully collected and make an evaluation of this data. And after that, and only after that, we will be able to see what could be the next step.
Okay, we now try again. Ludwig Burger from Reuters. Can you ask your question? Ludwig, do you hear us? Okay, otherwise we are going to take the next question. WHO is calling for the recognition of Covishield. How near is EMA to doing this? How many more inspections would you need, and how long could approval take? So probably for the Covishield, where we are, this question is for Dr. Sweeney.
So thank you very much for the question, and I understand that this is also being asked in the context of the discussions and information we've seen on the EU digital COVID certificate. So I think it's important to clarify, first of all, that our remit is to evaluate medicines and vaccines for marketing authorization in the EU. We can only do that on the basis of an application from an applicant, a potential marketing authorization holder. And for the vaccine Covishield per se, we don't currently have an application for marketing authorization. We do have vaccines already authorized on the EU, and a particular manufacturing sites which meet our requirements and have been inspected are included in those marketing authorizations as part of the marketing authorization process, but only a part of the marketing authorization process. But that can only be done either for a vaccine already authorized in the EU or in the context of an additional marketing authorization application for a vaccine. And we're not able to comment further on recognition of vaccines that may be authorized and in use outside of the EU in third countries, or how they might be recognized by the Commission and Member States for the vaccine certificates. And for that matter, you would have to contact the European Commission. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sweeney. We now have a question for Dr. Genov. What side effects and data do you have so far on vaccines and pregnant women, given there are still no clinical data? Dr. Genov, please.
Thank you for the question. It's an important question, and as we have explained before, and you know, in clinical trials there are very few pregnant women that were involved. They actually became pregnant in the course of the trial. We have seen reassuring data from FDA colleagues. There is a publication a few weeks ago on use of mRNA vaccine in over 36,000 pregnant women, showing preliminary results of no safety concerns, and this is an important reassuring indicator. We continue to collect data. The number of studies that have been requested to the companies that produce the vaccines authorized in Europe, and we also have international collaboration to set up observational research and study funded by the EMA to monitor further use of COVID-19 vaccines in pregnant women. So far, no safety concerns from the data we have, although limited. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Genov. Now we have another question for Dr. Cavaleri. What is known about the Johnson & Johnson in Europe Janssen vaccine in relation to the Delta variant?
Yeah, so we are waiting for additional data that would tell us whether the antibodies generated by this vaccine will be able to neutralize also the Delta variant. For the time being, considering that we have seen with the Beta variant, including data coming from the large clinical trials that they conducted, including in South Africa, these data are rather reassuring on the fact that this vaccine should be able to retain protection also against the Delta variant. But very soon we will have confirmatory data in this respect.
Thank you very much. Then we also have another question for you. Should countries speed up vaccination in elderly people with just one shot because of the Delta variant? It's linked to the same issue.
Yeah, I think, as said at the beginning, it's very important that vulnerable people, and in particular the elderly, gets vaccinated as soon as possible in light of the potential wave of Delta variant spreading across the continent in the coming weeks and later on in the year. But what we've seen also from preliminary data is that you really need to go with 2 doses. So to complete your vaccination cycle, if 2 doses are required in order to get full protection. So it's very important that countries speed up in having good coverage of elderly, at least above 60 years of age, in order to be sure that will not be exposed to COVID later on caused by this variant.
Thank you very much. Another question linked to the same topic, this time from the chat, Ludwig Burger from Reuters. I understand you find that approved vaccines do protect against the Delta variant, yet you requested all vaccine developers to investigate if their vaccine provides protection against emerging new virus variants. Can you elaborate? Dr. Cavaleri, please.
Yeah, as you know, there are a number of variants that have been emerging over the last months, and we expect more to come over. So it's very important that there is a continuous monitoring and close surveillance of what is the performance of all the approved vaccines against any new variant that has been emerging. As you know, as an example, we have been discussing very recently about the Delta variant, but now there is the so-called Delta Plus variant, which is the Delta variant with an additional mutation in the spike protein. That is also important, and we need to check that as well. So the message here is that we would like the developers and the manufacturers to maintain a close surveillance of what is their performance of their vaccine against any of the new variants that might emerge in the future.
Thank you very much. I think we don't have any additional questions here. So thank you very much for participating in today's press briefing. And again, I apologize for the technical difficulties we had. I still hope that you got some responses to the questions you had. And thank you very much. Also, thank you very much to the participants of this briefing today. And have a good afternoon. Thank you very much.